Hello everyone. In this session, we will show you how to create, test, and deploy business processes using BIAMI software. With BIAMI, you can create and offer any business process as a service. With that, you can build your own business process-driven platforms as a service. In this demo, I will create and automate website backup process for you to be able to offer backup as a service, but in reality, you can design any process that you want. Let me explain what we have here. In our environment, I'm using Mac. I have two websites installed. One website is a WordPress website, so in a blog/content management system type of a website running PHP and MySQL. I have also another website that's e-commerce website, again using similar technologies, PHP files, and connected to MySQL databases. What we're going to do is we're going to create a process to back up a website, and then we're going to automate that process and expose it as a service for you to be able to automate and offer it as a service. Let's create the backup process using BIAMI software. What you do is you go to BIAMI website. I type www.biami.io. I click on a menu, Get Started, Create New Process. It asks me to confirm to make a copy of an empty BIAMI process template file. I click Make a Copy, and the file is created. What you can see here is there are 4 columns in that template. Stage. BIAMI software works in a way that it executes tasks in certain stages, one after the other. The stage 0 is a special one where you define the names of the processes, and then it executes stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And in all those stages, you can define one or more tasks. So actually, if you have a process where you need to execute a number of tasks at the same time, just put them at the same stage. Generic task description, column B, is where you specify business tasks without really any IT knowledge. You just type it in a straight way how you would, design your business requirements. Column C is for technical task description. Once you define a business tasks, then you translate them into technical tasks, and scripts are IT scripts that actually deliver those technical tasks. Let me show you how it works. We're going to create a backup as a service process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change the name of the file, and I will call it backup as a service. Now the generic task description, like I said, the stage 0 is important and a special one because this is where you actually put the names of the processes. So again, I'm just gonna call it backup as a service, and the technical task description it's just gonna be backup as a service. In script, I don't change anything. It is advised that the stage 0 shouldn't have any scripts running. This is really for information purpose. BIAMI bridges the gap between business requirements and IT, and I will show you how we create the process. When you think of offering a backup as a service, the typical backup you would say will include a number of steps. What you want to do is you want to download files, you want to download a database, then you want to maybe compress it into one file, and of course you don't want to store it always on the same server. You have a separate storage server, so you want to send this file to a storage server, and that's what we're going to do, and this is how our process is going to look like. So like I said, what we want to do is we want to download some files. So we want to download files. What I do is I actually type in the generic task descriptions the non-IT requirements, the tasks that we will run and execute in BIAMI. So we will download files. We will backup database into one place. Then we're going to compress it all to have a one file, and we're going to upload it to external storage server. Those are really requirements for the and steps and stages in the process. So again, I'm going to create various stages for them. First, download files. 2, backup database. 3, compress it, and then 4, upload to storage server. This is really how you define the steps. And again, those steps will be translated into technical tasks. Now, one business task can be translated to one or many technical tasks. For us, because we're starting those websites locally, the download files will remain just copy them, copy files to specific directory. Now we want to back up a database. We're using MySQL database. There is a MySQL dump MySQL dump tool to download the database. For the compressing, we're going to use tar to create a tar zip file. So we're going to create a tar and upload to the server. So we have a for that demo, we have a storage server that is an FTP server. So we're just going to upload to FTP. Now those business steps have been translated into IT tasks. Now, next step is for you to define what scripts you're going to run to actually execute those technical tasks. Now, have in mind that those technical translation can be done by your technical team, or you can request a translation with us at bme.io. So for us to run copy files to specific directory means, well, we're gonna create a temporary directory, and we have a temp folder in BME, and within that temp folder we will create a specific file and then copy files over there. So business didn't think of creating a additional folder, so sometimes we just need to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a next step in the same. So I'm going to move that down, and I will create the first stage that will be technical only. Create temp folder or directory, and then all the rest I will move to different stages. Now, download files will be stage 2. Actually, backup of a database can be executed at the same time as you download the files. This is business calls it the 2 stages, but technically it can be done at the same time. So you can actually shorten the time for the execution of the process. So we're going to do a little optimization here. So we're going to leave the backup database in a stage 2, and after that we're going to leave a compress and upload. So for us to create a temp directory, what we're going to do is we're going to run command. We're going to run commands, and we're going to just run command mkdir make directory, and we will create a backup folder within BME temp directory. So there is a variable called dir that you can use, and you use the variables and parameters within 3 pipes. So what we're going to do is, we're going to create a directory within BME directory in a temp folder, and we're going to call it backup. For copy files over, we're gonna also run command, and that's gonna be just cp because we're using a local file, so we're just gonna copy them over, and we store the applications within a specific folder. So I will just put that folder here, applications, mum, htdocs. This is where I store the files. Now, if I show you that directory, on the terminal, you'll see that we store website within a website folder and e-commerce within e-commerce. So first we're going to do the website process. So I'm just going to call it website folder, and I want to copy all the files, and I will copy them over to the backup folder that we've created in the previous step. So that will be in BME directory, temp, backup. So after copying over the files, we want to do a database backup. Actually, it's going to be in the same stage. It's not going to be after. It's going to be at the same stage. So again, for database backup, it's MySQL dump command. What we do is we run command MySQL dump. We use localhost for database, user is root, password is root, database name is WordPress, and we want to save it in our temporary folder as well. So it's in BME directory, temp folder, backup as database.sql file. After we've copied files over and have a database backup, we want to compress it all. So we're gonna run command again, and we're gonna use a tar command to create it. So we're creating a file. We're gonna place it in BME directory, temp. I'm gonna call it website .tar.gz, and we will compress all the files that we've copied over together with the database. So it's going to be BME directory, temp, backup, and all the files. Once we've created the compressed file, we want to send it over to an FTP server. So we're going to upload to FTP. So if I type FTP, there's two plugins available: download and upload. We're going to use the upload one. It automatically shows us what parameters we need to put in the scripts. So I'm running an FTP server here, and my host is 192.168.0.2. I run it on port 21. Username for my FTP user is FTP, and password for my FTP password is password as well. Now I want to take the file from local dir that will be a BME directory temp. We're going to place it on FTP server in a specific directory as well. So remote directory equals, and for me it's for my server it's volume1 my FTP backup as a service. Okay, now file mask. So we're gonna just copy over the website tar.zip file that we've created. And I just want to confirm, double check again. Yes, we're gonna call it website.gz. So that's the file we're gonna send over. Now what we want to do as a next step is, because we've created a lot of files, complex files uploaded, then we're gonna leave some unnecessary information on the BME server. So let's just do an additional step that will be just cleaning. So it's gonna be just technical step, just cleaning. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna run command, and we're gonna run command. We'll just remove the file that we've created. So we've created a zip file in BME directory temp. It's called website.tar.gz, and we're also going to remove all the files that we've copied over. So we will just remove the whole directory temp backup. Okay, we'll put it at the same stage as previous one. That's how our process is going to look like. What we're going to do now is we're going to import it into BME Dev, BME Dev software. So what I have here is I have a vanilla BME Dev software installation. You can look for some other recordings showing how to install BME Dev. You can download it for free from our website. If I execute it, as you can see, it's a vanilla pre-installation. I have nothing to do here. Shows me two BME processes, ID1 and ID3. Those are the processes that BME Dev is coming with. What we're going to do now is we're going to import our backup as a service process into that BME Dev environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export that BME as a service process into as the TSV file, so tab separated values file. So I go to my spreadsheet, I click on File, Download As, tab separated values. I click on it. File was downloaded. Now what I'm going to do is I will copy that file over to my BME Dev temp folder. I will change its name into import TSV. Every file that we want to import should be called import.tsv. Now in BME Dev you can find out that in order for me to import a new task from temp directory import TSV file, I need to execute BME with parameters called cmd equals import. So I'm doing that, and you can see I have a new process with a task ID equals 7 called BME as a service. That's exactly the same name as we put in the stage 0 in generic task description field in our spreadsheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to execute that process for us to check if it works. Now every time you import, you always need to update BME Dev environment and download all the missing plugins. In our process, we're using a couple of plugins. We use do nothing and run command, and that doesn't require any external plugins, but we also use FTP upload. BME Dev, when you download it, it comes only with download file plugin, so we need to update the software and download those additional scripts. So for us to update and download missing scripts, we just execute BME with parameter called cmd equals update. That's what I'm going to do. And it's updated. If I go to our folder, our plugins folder, I can see that I have a new folder now called FTP upload. So now I know that I can execute all the processes that I have in my repository. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to request that process and then execute it. If you know, Reami works in the way that you do one or many requests of the process and then you execute it then at the same time. So for me to add a new request, I execute BME with command equals request, and task ID equals my task ID for BME as a service, which is 7. I execute the request. The request was created. It's with ID equals 2. It's not really important, but just for you to know that the request was made. Now that process, what it does is with the file, it's going to download files, download the database, create a compressed file, and upload it to FTP server. So on my FTP server, at the moment, I don't have any files here. As you can see, it's completely empty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to execute BME to process that request. Now I want also see what is happening. So I'm going to add a debug mode, so you can run BME in a debug mode for you to see what is happening actually, how BME works. So I'm running BME with the mode equals debug, and I will show you also what is in our FTP server. So I execute that. You can see there's certain stages and certain executables, and also what you see is we have a new file on our FTP server, website.tar.zip. This is exactly the file that we've specified to create and upload on the FTP server. If you go to BME Dev, we can scroll through all the stages, and you can see, that BME actually executes all the commands that we've created. Right? So it does FTP upload. Here is this long list of creating a compressed file, and then before it was doing in the stage 2, executing 2 different tasks at the same time. Before that was stage 1 when it created a backup file. So yes, it works, and we can see that we've automated the backup process. Now let's improve it a little bit. We have 2 websites. They're built with similar technologies, and we want to use the same process to offer backup as a service to all our websites and all our customers. So the BME has a concept of parameters. You can specify parameters within a process, and those parameters can be changed at the time when you request the process and execute it. So that the process we created is all created for a specific database and specific files. So we've downloaded files from the website folder, right? And then when we did the database, we've back up the specific database. So let's create 2 parameters for us. We create parameters with just putting a letter P instead of a stage in the column A. We're gonna create 2 parameters. One will be for database name. So we'd call it DB name, and we're The second one will be for a file directory, so where the files are actually located, for us to be able to do a backup for many different websites. So for the DB name, we see we were downloading a WordPress database. So we can actually, in a column C, you can specify the default name for the parameter. So I will leave it as a WordPress. And for file directory, our files are created in a website folder. So I will leave also website as a default value for file there. Parameter. Now, what we want to do, we want to go quickly through steps and change hard-coded parts of the script and replace them with our parameters. So when we have website, we're just changing it with a file dir, again in triple pipes. So 3 pipes, file dir, and we're going to leave it like this. Now for our MySQL DAB, we want to be able to back up different databases. So we're going to replace WordPress with DBName. Now we're gonna replace the compressed file name, right, with the directory that we've created as well. So let's replace that with file underscore dir. Okay, so we're gonna create. Now we're gonna FTP, and also we need to FTP, the file that we've created, so not just website, because if we back up a different website, then it's going to be called in a different way. So again, we're going to do file directory. Okay, and for cleaning, we need to also remove the file directory, and the backup folders stay the same. So we have created two parameters, and we will import this process into BYAMI Dev. Again, we could change the name of the process into, let's say, backup as a service version 2, if we want. So I'm going to do it, and for me to import it into BYAMI Dev, I would export it as a TSV file. So I'd go into File, Download As, and tap Separated Comma. Now, BYAMI Dev has a very nice option to be able to import TSV file from internet as well. So if you run BYAMI and has nothing to do, this gives you all the commands. You can see that if you use script equals URL, it can actually import the file from the internet. So what I'm going to do is, and you can expose Google Spreadsheet as a TSV file on the internet. So the way you do it, you just share it. I will expose it as a file in the BYAMI Dev. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run import with parameters script equals, and I'm going to put it that the TSV file location. Now, if I copy over the whole link, it's actually a link for the whole spreadsheet. It's not just for a TSV file. But what we can do is we just change the last part of the URL into export. Export GND equals 0. So the first tab we're exporting the first tab, and we want to export it in a format equals CSV. And this is really how you can find it out within the Google Docs documentation, but that's how you export file as a TSV file. So we're exporting first tab as a TSV file. Click enter, and hey, what we have is we have a new process with task ID equals 15, backup as a service version 2. Great, we don't need to export it. We can do it manually. We can actually import it directly from internet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it again. So on my FTP server, I will remove the file that we've created, and I will request our process. So it's task ID equals 15 now, and I will process it at the same time. So I don't need a debug mode. I've seen how it works. So I can change command to request process, and it will request it and execute at the same time. So we're going to do that. It does everything as we specified. And yes, we have that website, the backup of the website created. Now, remember we specified those two parameters. So what I want to do is I want to request it again, and now change those parameters that we specified to point to a different website. So we've created two parameters. We've created a DB name and file dir. So for us to do the backup of the e-commerce website, we're just gonna point to DB name equals e-commerce, and file directory equals e-commerce as well, because that's where we store the files for e-commerce websites. Now again, it's the same technology: some PHP files, some HTML files, and connected to MySQL database. So we go through the same process, but executing with the different parameters. So again, we launch it, and let's see. We can see that we're doing a backup now of different things. It's not the same file as we did. That's a different website that we run backup for. And yes, we've done, and we've uploaded now e-commerce website backup, and as you can see, there's different sizes, there's different files. So yes, we've created we've automated a backup process, and we can execute it with different parameters for us to process to back up different websites. So we can offer almost we can offer a backup as a service now. Now I want to show you a batch processing within Bin Dev, within BIAMI Dev. So what we're doing now is we were executing a individual process one by one. Now there is a batch process, so you could actually request many executions at the same time. If you're, for example, backing up all the websites that you have, and you want to do it one by one, then you can actually run BIAMI in a batch process. So you have that described here that you can run a batch process with parameters. It will run, or it will read parameters from a file called task ID, so process ID.tsv file in a temp. So we will create that file, and then we will run it as a batch process. So let's go to our FTP. We're going to remove the files, have it empty. Our new version of backup as a service process has ID number 15. So we're going to create a file called 15.tsv. I will just change the import into TSV, but it's a text file, so you can create any text file. So I'll just create 15.tsv. I will open it, remove everything, and I will specify that we want to do backups for our two websites. So we're going to be passing over parameters called db name, and then I click tab, just one tab, remember, just one tab, and then I specify a second parameter I'm going to pass over. It's file underscore dir, and I want to do two websites that we have. So the first name was with WordPress database and within website folder, and the other one was with e-commerce database and e-commerce folder. So I'm going to save that, and if I go to BIAMI dev and I run it as a batch process now, so I'll request BIAMI as a batch processing with for task ID backup as a service version 2, so equals 15, and I run it. Remember, all this information you see here is because we're using the BIAMI dev. This is all for development purposes. You don't see these commands when you run it in production. What it did is it just executed first a backup for our website and then backup for the e-commerce side. And if we go back to our FTP folder, you can see at the same time it created backup for two. So batch processing is useful when you manually execute a number of instances of the same process with different parameters. Now, the next step is for us to expose created process as a service. Now, you would require a BIAMI Enterprise Edition for that. I do have it up and running here. So in order for us to move processes from a dev environment into kind of a test pre-prod and production environment, we'll actually use a already BIAMI script that we've created. So you can go to a GitHub repository for BIAMI, where we host a number of BIAMI scripts that you can use. Now, one of them is called BIAMI Dev 2EE. So I'm going to click on this one, and you can see that this is an easy way for you to migrate BIAMI Dev 2EE. And if I click on Import TSV, and this is really the tab separated file, this is the process that we've created. It's very, very simple process. Just does some synchronizations of specific folders between dev and EE environments. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my dev environment. I'm gonna import that process again using a script option. So I'm not downloading it as a TSV file. What I can do at GitHub is I can display a raw data for the file. So I'll copy over that URL, and you can see I have a new process imported called BIAMI Dev 2EE. So I will request it. 23 with the parameter called Tomcat. Right? So I will request it with parameter called Tomcat, and my Tomcat is well in the same folder, volumes, data, test, Tomcat. So I have requested, I will execute. So I will go to my local installation of BME EE to see if all the tasks were synchronized. So I will run it on a local host where I have it installed, and with a parameters command equals get task list, that should show me all the tasks that I have. And as you can see, I have a couple of processes here, and those are exactly the same process that we've created. So we have a BME version 2, and I can now request this process and execute it with the web service call. So I'll go back to our FTP server. I will remove the files that we have. And what I will do is I will request backups with BME. So I'm going to run job command equals, we're going to request and process. We're going to request and process as the argument 2. We're going to do task ID equals 15. This is for our backup as a service version 2 process. So I'm going to run it, and what we should see, we should have the first version of the website with default options. Now I could also add more arguments. So I could also, in that file, argument 3, where we're going to say DB name equals e-commerce, and e-commerce, and argument 4, we're gonna do file directory equals e-commerce if we want to back up the e-commerce website. So I press enter, and I'll wait for backup to be performed and executed. And yes, as you can see, it's been finished, and I've executed the process we've created with BME Dev on BME EE with a web service call. Thank you very much.